There have been many film versions of the Hercules myth over the years. From the Steve Reeves movies, to Jason and the Argonauts, to the Disney Renaissance film, it seems like everyone has taken a stab at the legendary demigod. Heck, 2014 saw the release of 2 Hercules movies in the same year. But there's one take on this classic hero that stands out from the pack. One so unique and unmistakable that, oh boy, it demands recognition. That version is the 1983 canon movie directed by Luigi Cozzi. If you've seen some of our other videos, you probably know that Luigi Cozzi's STARCRASH is one of my favorite movies of all time. Seriously, check the list, it's right there between Blue Velvet and Stalker. So when I finally saw Hercules for the first time, I was delighted to realize that, in many ways, it's a sister movie to STARCRASH, featuring a similar tone, story structure, and visual style. What's Hercules about? Well, what'd you expect? Hercules is strong, there's a princess. Hercules loves the princess. Princess gets kidnapped. Hercules smashes a bunch of styrofoam rocks and Italian extras in the process of saving said princess. And along the way, he encounters gods, wizards, mythical creatures, dead parents, evil kings, sword fights, political intrigue, the birth of mankind, natural disaster-induced house cleaning, anachronistic spandex, interstellar chariot rides, laser punching, space Egypt, eye patch-wearing Jason Statham-looking assassins, excessive use of science, glowing xenomorph eggs, Earth-to-Moon log jamming, and a giant robotic Cerberus Hydra mashup created by a cross-dressing Daedalus that looks like Marvin the Martian. And that's just for starters. Lou Ferrigno plays Hercules, and holy crap does he look the part. Owing more to the Steve Reeves pictures of the 1950s than the more trim and perhaps mythically accurate interpretation of the character from Jason and the Argonauts, Ferrigno was the perfect choice for this larger-than-life film.
This sword consecrated to Zeus fears nothing!
Ferrigno was dubbed in the movie by Mark Smith, a veteran voice actor and bit player who worked on everything from the English language versions of Venus Wars and Project A-ko to British TV series like Space 1999 and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Beeblebrox, either you all give yourselves up and let us beat you up a little, though not too much because we are firmly opposed to needless violence.
The supporting cast is equally delightful. Luigi Cozzi has said in interviews that he loves using overacting in films as a stylistic device, and he certainly found the right troupe of actors to carry out his vision for this film. My favorite character in the whole movie is the main villain, King Minos, played by Austrian actor William Berger and voiced by the film's narrator, Anthony LaPenna. A shifty servant of the goddess Hera, Minos is secretly plotting to eliminate both Hercules and the gods, so that the world will be ruled by his one true love.
Science! Science! Science!
In fact, the only thing Minos loves more than science is gratuitous adjectives.
Big, huge, immense, terrifying.
I especially like the finale, in which he confronts Hercules with a fire sword, putting our hero into a situation where he can no longer rely on his strength alone to save him. This makes for a fitting and thrilling climax because, up to this point, Hercules has had no trouble punching his way through most of his problems.
You look muscle-bound, but you're pretty agile, aren't you?
It goes without saying that Berger's performance is magical, and LaPenna's voice acting leaves no scenery left unchewed.
Where was I?
Hercules' love interest Cassiopeia, played by Ingrid Anderson, makes for a charmingly airheaded damsel in distress.
Yes.
On the other side of the talent spectrum, Morella D'Angelo is very good in the movie, conveying a sense of tragic mystery in her otherwise properly hammy performance, and the character she portrays, a sorceress who is forbidden to love, is given some solid depth when compared to the rest of the cast. Ubiquitous B-movie maven Sybil Danning pops up too, playing a henchwoman to King Minos' evil plot, who is skilled in the dark arts and has some plans of her own for Hercules. In true Greek, or Roman, or Greek legend fashion, we also get a pantheon of bickering gods and goddesses, although the film's interpretation of them is unique, to say the least. Also, Mount Olympus is in space. The soundtrack was provided by the legendary Pino Donaggio, hailed for his work on Nicholas Roeg's Don't Look Now, and numerous collaborations with Brian De Palma. And man, is it great. Seriously, after listening to his main theme for this movie, I feel like I can throw a bear into outer space. As utterly bombastic as the movie it was composed for, Donaggio's score is out of this world, adding an epic quality to the film that more than makes up for its occasionally cheap-looking production value. There's one scene I particularly like, where Hercules emerges from the ocean with a sunset behind him. That moment, coupled with DiMaggio's score, gives me chills every time I watch it. It's pretty much the hero myth summed up in one spectacular image. After referencing Ray Harryhausen numerous times in STARCRASH, Luigi Cozzi goes full-on homage in this film. The opening sequence recalls Jason and the Argonauts, and Pelias' violent usurping of the throne of Thessaly, while Hercules' duel with the Hydra copies the Medusa fight in Clash of the Titans, released only 2 years before Hercules. Armando Valcauda, the special effects wizard behind STARCRASH, returns for this film, and it's just as jam-packed with candy-colored effects trickery. Working within an extremely tight budget, Valcauda used every trick in the book to realize the film's countless fantasy elements. Split screen, miniatures, stop motion, men in suits, 2D animation, dry ice, glass shots, and front projection are only a few of the techniques found in Hercules. It's a practical effects wonderland. My favorite effect in the movie is Minos' fire sword. Not only is it cool from a technical perspective, but it's a neat fantasy weapon that makes the movie's main villain even more formidable. Whenever I do research on Luigi Cozzi, which is pretty often for this show, one thing hits me every time. Even though he worked in an industry that was based on exploitation, Cozzi always went out of his way to try something different. When producers asked him to rip off American movies like Star Wars and Alien, he always added unique personal touches to the finished products. STARCRASH owes more to the pulp space opera novels of the 40s and 50s than it does Star Wars, while Contamination has more to do with Invasion of the Body Snatchers than the Ridley Scott picture producers wanted. And when Golan and Globus hired Cozzi to direct Hercules, we got something quite special indeed. Originally, the film was going to be directed by exploitation maestro Bruno Mattei, who was fresh off of another sword and sandal picture with Lou Ferrigno and Sybil Danning entitled Seven Magnificent Gladiators. According to Danning, the film was originally intended as a straight rip-off of Conan the Barbarian, with gratuitous sex and violence to spare, and Danning herself playing the lead female role. However, Danning and Ferrigno did not get along during the production of Gladiators, and Mattei left the Hercules project during pre-production. Danning was demoted from main love interest to henchwoman, and somewhere along the line, the movie was reimagined from an R-rated Conan cash-in to a kids' movie. While it's not clear whether it was Ferrigno or Cozzi or Cannon who ultimately made the decision, Hercules' bipolar nature is, for me, the heart of the movie. It's a kids' movie, alright, but instead of coming across as a sanitized sword and sorcery movie for children, Hercules essentially feels like a heroic fantasy as told by a child. Everything from the Sugar Rush pacing to the rocket pop visuals to the playground dialogue reminds me of what it was like to play make-believe with my friends when I was little. All of the elements of a classic fantasy story are in there, but they're handled with so much innocence and over-the-top glee that one can imagine a caffeine-fueled child dictating the screenplay.
At last you failed!
Damn you!
Heck, even Minos' wind-up toy robot monsters look like something a kid would design. And considering Cozzi's other film work, I have to wonder whether this sense of childlike innocence was intentional. After all, most of his movies reference films, books, and art that he loved as a kid.
I was still loving all those things which people say those things are for kids, but I think those things are good for me. Now I'm more than 50 and I still like those things, you know. Silly things for people, but I love space, I love adventures, I love monsters, skeleton fightings, you know. I love them when I was 3 years old, 4 years old. I love them today. And if they come and tell me, hey, there is a new movie with a skeleton fighting a dinosaur, I'll go immediately to see it today.
Upon its release, Hercules was enough of a hit for the Cannon Group to order a sequel. Entitled The Adventures of Hercules here in the US, the film brought back Ferrigno as Hercules, Minos and Daedalus as the villains, and Cozzi as director. While I don't think it's quite as entertaining as the first film, The Adventures of Hercules is still a solid follow-up, and I would say that it's even more zany and baffling than its predecessor. In a world where we keep getting assaulted with lame, cynical, uninspired fantasy movies every other week, it's always a treat to revisit Luigi Cozzi's Hercules. It's the perfect blend of legitimately sincere, over-the-top silliness matched with genuine entertainment. A goofy but grand fantasy epic with an awesome hero, wacky villains, a beautiful princess, sword and sorcery, a kick-butt score, and loads of colorful special effects. What else do you really need, aside from a Friday night with good friends, pizza, and a TV to enjoy it on? The Hercules movies are currently available in a double feature DVD from MGM, and they're well worth the purchase if this review has piqued your interest. Maybe someday a company like Arrow Video or Shout Factory will re-release the films on Blu-ray, hopefully chock full of special features to explain some of the baffling choices made during the productions of these magnificent motion pictures. This is Joel Davidson for the Cinemologists saying, Hercules, your mother's in danger!
What? Hercules, what are you doing? It's your own house.
I don't have a house anymore.